Welcome back, Counterculture, where we do not make sense of the nonsense. That's a different show.
You always say welcome back. Where were we?
We were gone.
Were we somewhere?
We're gone for 6 out of
Were
7
they
days.
gone?
They tuned
They're
into a
back.
different show.
All right.
They were watching you sing moments,
With Mark.
or they were watching you chasing the wind.
And finding out about me not being pregnant, just looking like it.
Yes, we had a 9-month moment.
A 9-month moment.
It was fantastic.
It's over now.
But we also had, I can't wait to talk to Mel today about partying it up.
Partying up.
When you think of partying it up, do you think of Mel McGinnis?
I'm not going to comment.
I am not going there.
I am not going to
This is Counterculture, where we talk about things that
Yes.
normally would not be talked about. Like,
Right.
does Pastor Mel McGinnis party it up? Now his whole church is going to call him on the carpet.
Let's say, why are you partying?
That's exactly right.
Because Jesus is a party person.
That's exactly right. And
They celebrated in the Old Testament. It was a week-long celebration. We just like, oh, thank you, God, we're done. No, they celebrated for a week. And if you got married, it was a year.
They celebrated enough that you could bring the cheap wine out
Yeah.
at the end and nobody noticed.
Exactly.
So this wasn't a one-moment party.
Right.
That
Right.
whole wedding year thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Summer's been on that kick too, about talking about that whole,
Right,
that whole
yeah.
year.
Yeah.
Man,
we
can't
don't. We celebrate too cheaply. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh, we do. So talking about celebrating.
Right.
I was talking with a friend, no names mentioned, Mark chapter 16. Right? So your namesake, Mark chapter 16 last night. I got a couple questions for you. Counterculture. Right? So Mark chapter 16 picks up after Easter. Right? And I've termed the problem Easteritis. Right? We Christians have Easteritis.
Yeah.
Right? But if you look at verse 14, right, for me, and it says this. I'll actually let you read the next verse after that, but that's a different moment. Afterward, he appeared to the 11 themselves as they were reclining at a table. Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Climbing on a table.
They were climbing on a table, just like they were at Passover before Easter, right? They were reclining at the table.
Oh, reclining. I think
Jesus
you said
did
they
a bunch
were
of
climbing
stuff.
on a table.
They were reclining
Okay.
at a table. And he rebuked them for their unbelief, right? And hardness of heart. So,
This doesn't count. Verses 9 through 20 are not in all the manuscripts, so we don't have.
So, in the part that it's in.
Okay.
All right, listen. Counterculture.
Yeah.
We got a problem.
Okay.
We are super nearsighted in life.
Yeah.
We remember things in the past, but we revise them, right? But we have a problem remembering what God has done and what Jesus has done for us.
Short-term memory.
So we have a short-term problem, right? Jesus just has been resurrected. He just appears to them, right? He shows himself to them. All of these things. They're reclining on a table, and he rebukes these great disciples. So I was telling people that I think we think that Easter happened. Jesus was crucified, buried, resurrected, and then the disciples just all of a sudden got it. And everything is great, and they're totally different people, and we have Easteritis. Like, there's just something happens, and everything just, poof, and all the problems go away.
Right.
But Mark reminds us that these are the same disciples.
They are disciples.
There you go. I like that. Disciples.
Do you get it? Duh.
And Jesus has to come in their midst, and he rebukes them and says, for their unbelief, and says, your hardness of heart. Hardness of heart. These are disciples that are supposed to now
Stubborn refusal
Is that what it
is
said?
what the NIV says. Stubborn refusal.
So, Mark, how do we not be these kind of disciples? When Jesus does these big moments, these big things in our life, how do we avoid the next moment where we're sitting in the chair going, ah, life's falling apart, and Jesus has to come and go like, don't you remember what I just did for you?
How's the how question?
I didn't say why do we do it.
Yes.
Because that just leads,
Yeah,
that just
how
leads to
do
who
we
we are.
not do
But
it?
how do we do it? How do we
Well-
avoid that? How do we get out of these moments where God comes in, saves the day, and then the next moment we're in the same
Because
place?
I think it's because we quit looking at him and we start looking at what's going on around us.
There we go.
Several years ago, I had gone through a pretty rough time, and I remember talking to a friend of mine, And I finally I'm processing with him. I blurt out, I said, I just don't trust that God's going to take care of me. And it crickets, he's like quiet. He goes, finally he says, well, now we're onto something, aren't we?
Sure.
And here was the funny thing is I sat there and I started thinking to myself, that's ridiculous, Mark.
Yeah.
You have seen him he has provided and taken care of me over and over and over again.
Yep.
Why do I miss it? Because we have to go back to school all the time. And here's what gets me. I have at least reason. They had Jesus with them. They saw everything.
Yep.
I'm seeing it 2,000 years later, roughly. Broad strokes. So I should have a little bit of leeway here because I didn't see the actual crucifixion. I didn't see this. I get it here. So I have a little latitude because, but yeah, you'd think to yourself, what is the matter with these people? But it's easy to do because right after this, okay, look at Elijah. He goes and he has this wonderful moment where he's just cleaned out the prophets of Baal, seeing this great, magnificent movement of God. It crashes
immediately.
Have you crashed this week?
Oh, yes.
Yes, I have too.
After Easter.
I crashed. Yeah, it's like after Christmas, after Easter. It's like boom. Sometimes for me, it's on Mondays, after Sunday.
Yep.
Boom! I just crash.
Mine's usually like Tuesday.
Yeah, it'll hit me. Yes, sometimes it's been Tuesday.
Cleaning up on Monday, looking forward to what's going on, spending time with people, and then Tuesday you're like, okay.
Yeah, right. And I think it's easy to do, and but I think it's interesting though because he says he appeared to the 11 as they were eating, so he's appearing to them, and while he rebuked them for their lack of faith and their stubborn refusal. Yep. Now there's moments that I have lack of faith, and I catch myself. I'm like, what in the world am I thinking? I have greater faith in this, but stubborn refusal,
defiance. Yep, I've decided
that isn't. I'm having a bad day. I've had some things that are making me wonder. God, are you there? Are you really in the midst of this? And then there's times when we, all of us, can do this. I know, no.
Not going to do it.
Not going to do it. And, maybe it's something he's asking me to do. Mark, I want you to forgive Andy. No. You don't know how bad it was. You don't know what he did to me. And she's like, do you know what they did to me? He didn't put you on a cross date. No, but he put an iron door on the Ben's bathroom, Big difference there. Stubborn refusal. Ooh.
Yeah. Well,
what would cause? Let me pose the question back to you. What would cause stubborn refusal?
I think what causes stubborn, whatever you say there,
stubborning refusal.
What happens with defiance in my world is God isn't doing what I want him to do.
Yeah.
He hasn't been who I want him to be. He isn't fixing it quick enough. He hasn't moved quick enough.
He isn't letting me be God.
That's right. So I'm like, God, I know how you took care of this the last time. I had to be the Christian and they didn't have to be the Christian. Yeah. So I don't want to do this again. Right?
What about them? What about them? What about Andy? God, Andy's not doing well. How many? Did you ever hear this when you were a kid? Great theology. If Andy jumped off a bridge, would you?
Yes.
You only answer that yes once. By the way, you kids, if you're watching and your mom or dad says it to you, only answer it yes once, and don't even do that because it could prove bad for you.
That's exactly.
I think it's pride too.
I think you're right.
It's pride. Stubborn refusal for me. It's always pride. God, I know better than you.
Well, and again, some of it for me is the pride. I know where you're going, God, and I don't want to go there.
Yeah, exactly. I see where this is going.
And I know you're going to ask me to forgive this person. I know. I love our modern day Christianity says, I have to love my enemies, but I'm not going to have anything to do with them, so I don't have to tangibly do anything. Right. I have to forgive people, but I'm not going to have anything to do with them, so I don't have to live that out. Right.
And granted, there's times we have to love people from a distance because they're not safe. But there's times also we need to just go and
we need to make sure that we're doing what God's asked us to.
Yes.
And there's times where God, I can forgive that person, but being back in relationship with them, yeah, no, not happening, because you don't know what they did to me. I think that's super important, right?
Stubborn refusal.
So counterculturally, we have this problem, like in today's world, where we're seeing all kinds of things going around, right? And there are people who are in actual, denial of what God could do, right? But there's people who are just in despair. They're looking around and they're going, you know what? God's never going to fix this. He hasn't fixed this. He can't fix this. Or I won't let him fix this.
Yeah.
Right? We don't want to be at a place. We don't want to be at a place where Jesus comes and sits down with us and chastises us for our stubborn refusal and unbelief.
Well, and let's put it in context here. He appears to the 11.
Yep.
Not to all of them. He appears to the 11.
Uh-huh.
And he rebukes them for their lack of faith and their stubborn refusal to believe, not him, but to believe those who had seen him after he had risen. Yeah. The pride is really coming out there. Wait a minute. Yeah. We're the 11.
Yeah. We got this.
I don't have to listen to them.
Yep. Nope.
They're not one of us.
We see that all the time, don't we?
Yeah.
Where I don't have to listen to you because you're not like me. Mm-hmm. Or you're not as whatever of me. I think that's important. And I think we need to be careful because, again, God says he's going to use the simple. He's going to confound the wise, right? He's going to use simplicity of life sometimes to foil the plans of those who are way smarter.
Foil.
I love that. I think back to my cartoon days.
Foil. Yes, foiled.
There we go.
Well, and it was their testimony.
Amen.
It was not getting into theological discussion. It was saying we saw him.
Yep.
Just plain and simple, we saw him. No, you couldn't have seen him. He only appears to the apostles, the 11.
Never worked.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't talk to people like you.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right. Well, so there's your challenge this week out there in counterculture world, right? Pay attention to what God is doing. Remember what God has done and can do in the present. Look forward to what he's going to do in the future.
Have faith and don't be stubbornly refusing.
Wow, I'm pretty sure you're about ready to make a word up.
I am.
Look at
refusaling.
Do you see the producer's eyes? He's like, you sound like Andy more and more.
Oh my goodness.
Look at that. Do you see that? Hey, we'll see you next time. Counterculture, where Pastor Mark may become even more like me.